Hi, 10th grade. Your first assignment this quarter is going to be, surprise, surprise, a writing assignment. It is called an op-ed. Op-ed literally means opposite the editorial. And let me explain. Let's pretend that this is a newspaper that we've just opened up. And on this side, on the right side, is a group of articles that express basically the position of the newspaper on some current events. In the United States right now, a lot of the rhetoric that's coming from media is talking about racism, systemic racism, critical race theory, and basically I feel like it's blaming me because I'm white for the bad things that have happened to minorities throughout history since the beginning of the United States. And I say me, I mean all white people. And I feel like that is not correct, but that's a lot of what I'm hearing. That's basically the opinion of many people in my country and many people, especially in newspapers and other media. And so there might be editorials explaining that point of view, defending that point of view, etc., etc. Historically, on the opposite side of the newspaper, physically, there will be articles that are called op-eds. Again, it literally means opposite the editorial, on the other side of the actual paper that the newspaper is printed on. And these opinions are opinions that go against the current of what's being said over here. So we're going to stop pretending now. And so I want you to write something like that. Take a current event or current set of events or situation that's something about personally, not something that you read on Google News that's happening in Egypt or in Spain or something like that, but something you personally know something about. And give your perspective on it. Especially something that your perspective may go against what popular opinion is right now, against what some people told you you're supposed to think about a current issue, against what media says, or whatever. You're going against some form of opinion that's being expressed today about a current issue or event. So, I remember last year, I believe, I gave you the acronym SOAPstone, SOAPS tone, and that stands for subject, occasion, audience, purpose, speaker, and tone of your writing. Everything you write should have some, or actually all of those. And so I'm giving that to you, and I want you to create something based on that. So here it is. Your subject is a current local event. Your perspective on it should be relevant in some way. As a smart Honduran teenager, speaker, that's you. So somebody wants to know what kids today in Honduras think about this event. Okay? Make sense? The occasion is an international teen news site is hiring someone to write an article. Okay, so most op-eds are 500 to 1,000 words long. I'm not going to make you write something that long. About 30 sentences should be sufficient for you to get your point across. If it's not, then maybe you need to narrow your focus. Your focus shouldn't be many bad things are happening and the police are trying to catch all the bad people. That's too generic. Okay, we want something that you actually can have an opinion about, not bad things are bad and police want to hurt bad people because they're bad. No. That's, again, too general. Your audience is teens who speak English and are interested in an international event or perspective on that event. Okay, so there are teenagers who like to go online and find out what other teenagers around the world are thinking about all the things happening in the world today. Could be about the COVID crisis, could be about the economic situation in Honduras because of the COVID crisis. It could be the collapse of the medical system. It could be something to do with the upcoming elections. I have a friend who's running for vice mayor of Valle de Angeles. Interesting. That's an interesting piece of news. Yeah, so it could be anything like that you have some perspective on that you could share with the world. Purpose to inform and influence opinion, but in an entertaining way. Okay, you want to influence, but you want to do it in a way that is kind of entertaining. Balance those two things. You don't want to sound like you're hitting somebody over the head with your opinion, but you don't want to sound silly either. So, balance. So your pre-writing, which you must get approved by me before you begin on your rough draft, is going to be this. Please follow the steps in order: pre-writing, rough draft, revisions after you've seen the video where I tell you how to do the revisions, and then final draft. Please do not do things without knowing exactly how I want you to do them, because as I've said many, many times to most of you before, one of the main things I want you to learn out of my class is how to follow instructions. It's one of my biggest goals, apart from actual grammar. So your pre-writing is this. You have to write the peg, problem, and promise of your op-ed. That's actually what a newspaper writer in the United States would do at a newspaper. They would deliver to the editor the peg, problem, and promise of what they wanted to write about, and the editor would approve or disapprove that article, and then the writer could begin writing the article, or researching it and then writing it. So the peg is one sentence saying what happened, where, and why. So one day it was a few years ago, I was walking to my work in Tegucigalpa. It was down a street where, it's just kind of a shortcut from one place to another, and there's no houses there or anything. And I passed on the side of the road 2 women who had been killed. And it was very shocking for me. And I could see that those women were not killed there. They had been transported there because there was no evidence around the women to indicate that they had been killed there. There was already like the yellow tape like you see on TV around them, indicating that the police had already started their investigation. For some reason, the police weren't there at the moment, but I kept walking. Anyway, so if I wanted to write about that, I might say 2 women were found dead in Colonia Oliva, and the cause of their death is unknown. Okay? And then the problem. What is the issue here? So for me, what the issue began to be after I saw what was on this side was that it was being reported that these women were killed in Colonia Oliva, which is not usually known as a dangerous colonia in Tegucigalpa. And so I did not like that it was being reported that way, because it made people think that Colonia Oliva was now a dangerous place. It was obvious to me that the bodies were dumped there by someone. This is a very macabre subject, but anyway, that's the kind of thing that's being written in newspapers, right? So people are, and you don't have to use these exact words, okay? But I might say people are saying that this crime occurred in Colonia Oliva. They think that now Colonia Oliva is a dangerous place. They do this, so they tend to make assumptions based on a small amount of evidence, um, rather than investigating fully what actually happened. So that's one sentence for the peg, 3 sentences for the problem, and one sentence that must include should, must, ought to, something like that. So, like I said, people should investigate fully something before they report it in media. And I'm thinking the reason for that is that you cause people to be afraid when there's no need to be afraid. At least not in Colonia Oliva. So when you're approaching thinking about what to write about, you should choose a topic where you swim upstream. And I'm going to use a little parable here so to help you understand. There is a type of fish called a salmon, I don't know what it's called in Spanish, that usually swims downstream or kind of around. But when it's time for that fish to reproduce, it goes upstream to a certain place where it will reproduce. And it's hard for the fish to go upstream. And so that is used as a way of talking about when your opinion goes against the current of popular opinion or opinion that's coming down from above your bosses, your parents, your teachers, whatever. Or maybe an unpopular opinion. So what you want to do is give an alternate point of view on something. So that's what the assignment is. You need to get your PEG problem and promise approved by me, and then you go to the drafting stage. So in your drafting, I want you to turn the pre-writing into a paragraph. That will be your introduction. You may have to kind of not rearrange necessarily, but reword some of the sentences so it flows like a paragraph and not just like a list of sentences. But turn your pre-writing into your introduction. Then your body should be 3 paragraphs constructed like this. Topic sentence is a subjective statement, then objective evidence statements. Okay? So, I think people are too quick to publish violent things in the newspaper. And I could give that's my subjective opinion. Subjective meaning my opinion and not fact. And then the objective evidence for that is every day in the newspaper you will see things like this reported. Because there's an old saying that says, if it bleeds, it leads. Okay? That means that if there is violence, then it usually leads the news report on TV, on the internet, in the newspaper, etc. And then your ending should be to restate your point and call to action. Imperatives are okay here, not in the rest of your draft. Imperatives meaning sentences where you tell somebody what to do. So many times I've seen in students writing, let's do this, stop polluting, things like that. And those are imperatives that should not normally be used in academic writing. However, we're writing an editorial, and the last paragraph can have sentences like that in it. Remember not to repeat yourself. Don't say the same thing in different ways, like I just did. See? Remember not to repeat yourself. Don't say the same thing in different ways. If I were writing an essay for a class, I could not put those 2 sentences both in my essay because they say the same thing in 2 different ways, and it's just kind of a waste of words. Okay, make your words and sentences count for something. Restate your point and call to action. I wrote down here, objective evidence can include statistics, like 4 out of every 5 people, blah, 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 something like that. Expert opinion, Dr. So-and-so of the such and such hospital says this about COVID, Testimonials could be somebody's personal experience. Those are objective evidence statements. Okay, so here's some other tips besides that. Don't use sarcasm. So don't say something that you don't mean to make a point. Like, oh, he's always on time. Meaning he's not ever on time. You see what I mean? Say what you mean what you say. Don't be condescending. Don't make your reader feel like you're putting him or her down, insulting him or her. And don't go on what I call rabbit trails. If you're writing about that incident where I was talking about seeing the two dead women on the side of the road, I shouldn't be talking about something else, like something else that happened in Colonia Oliva, or something about those women's lives with their children or something, because those things are rabbit trails. We want to stay to the point, and stay to the point that we're trying to make. If something doesn't help me make my point, then it shouldn't be in my essay. And so this is your assignment, pre-writing rough draft. I will put the pre-writing up. You should do that, get that approved, and then you can start on your drafting. We'll put those under 2 separate assignments. Hopefully this is clear enough for you. If not, please in the comments ask questions, because if you ask questions in the comments, then maybe other people will see your question and my answer and will learn from it. Okay? I think that's it. So have a nice afternoon.